Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee, and today I've got my friend Serge. He has drove over 1,200 miles from Canada and brought us his 2012 Electra Glide Ultra Classic motorcycle. So he rode this Harley all the way here. He didn't trailer it. That's a pretty good distance to come. Previously put the Soundstream HDHU.9813SG radio in. He's ready to do a big amp and speaker upgrade. So today we're going to install our plug-and-play Hertz SP 4.900. We're going to put the Hertz SX165 6.5-inch speakers in the fairing with some adapters. We're going to do a little bit of modification to the older style tour pack. We're going to port it, as well as put some 6.5-inch SV165Neo speakers in the tour pack. Let's get this thing tore apart. We'll get the highlights and we'll talk to you at the end. All right, so just a little bit more in depth on what we're doing to Serge's bike. First off, we're going to upgrade his battery. He's got a factory AGM style battery. Now we're going to go to the Excess Power new lithium technology called lithium titanate. So we're going to put that really powerful titanate battery. It's got a lot of cranking amps. He's got a stage 4 done to this motor. It's 10.5-to-1 compression, and this is going to make it start so much better. We have the Hertz SP 4.900 fully plug-and-play amplifier. We do this at Volunteer Audio, so it's simple for you to do it yourself, or you can come and see us. But we're going to completely plug into all factory harnessing. Nothing's going to be cut or modified, and we fully set it perfectly with an oscilloscope for his Soundstream Reserve radio. Now, again, Serge has already put this radio in, but I got the box here just to show you what he's using. That is the radio that fits the factory fairing. It adds Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a lot of those modern features, while being completely weatherproof, waterproof, and it retains your factory thumb controls. Very easy install. Makes a huge improvement to a very nice older bike. Now in the fairing, we're going to replace those factory cloth style grills with some metal mesh Hertz grills. We're going to use some adapters, the HSB 200s, to space our speaker back enough to put a 6.5 in it. So we're going to go to these Hertz SX165Neos in the fairing. They're 100 watt RMS. We're going to be throwing about 190 watts to them, but it's going to be clean. We're going to warranty it for 3 years, even against blowing. It's going to be amazing how this sounds. And we're doing the SV165Neo 6.5 in the tour pack. Again, we're going to do some slight modification to go from the 5.25 up to the 6.5. Also going to port that pod into the tour pack to get a lot better mid-bass and mid-range response. It's going to sound great. Can't wait to let you hear it at the end. All right, so we're taking out the factory speakers. Now I want you to look, there's only 3 screws holding each one in. That is on purpose. It's not a thick enough area at the bottom of the fairing for a screw to go in without going through the face. So definitely look at the fact you have some different length screws. And the fact there's not one in that hole. If you try to put one in there, it's going to come out the front. It's going to cause you to have to repaint the fairing and do some body work. So definitely don't want to have to do that. So on this install, we're actually installing our new metal mesh grills with the Hertz logos on it. If you choose to reuse that factory grill, you're not going to be reusing this plastic spacer. You're just going to peel the grill off the front and put your new spacer right behind it. If you try to use both, you're going to realize it's too deep and your speaker's not going to fit right. We're just going to put this in place, line up our 3 holes that we are going to use with those factory 3 holes. And we're going to do it with the smaller opening toward that factory opening with our grill in between. It's going to give us a really good look. It's going to funnel all that sound and point it right at you. And it offsets that speaker where all of this goes back together and nothing gets in the way. All right, so let's talk about this adapter. When it's in the right place and you've done those 3 screw holes in the right place, you'll see there's a flat part at the bottom, and that's going to clear right inside here on your fairing. You know you've got it right when the flat part is actually pointed downward on this one. Now, if this was a road glide, it'd go the other way. It actually spaces upward to clear. But on the street glide, when you do it correctly, or an Electra Glide Ultra in this case, that's going to be right there against the bottom of the fairing. All right, so you're going to be tempted when you go to put your speaker in to rotate it either straight up or to the side to keep these terminals away from this metal bracket. Don't worry about that. You can bend them out of the way once you get it mounted. You are going to be able to see through the grill that Hertz logo, and I don't want to do that where it's sideways and it looks bad. So we're going to line our speaker up. There's 3 options on how you can put the screw holes in. I'm going to make it where it's good and level so that my logo looks good through the front. And I'm going to start the screws. Now you're going to use the screws that came with your 6.5-inch speakers. They're in the box. They're actually taped behind the cardboard. So a lot of times people can't find it. They're just kind of hidden in there. All right, so at this point, we've got all 4 of our speaker screws in. We're just going to take each one of these little terminals, and we're going to bend them up toward the speaker to give us some more room and get them away from the bracket. Next, we're going to take our bracket. We're going to push it in and line it up where it's on the speaker. And you're going to see it doesn't line up. So we're going to take a self-tapping screw, and we're going to screw right into the outside flange of the speaker into that plastic adapter. By doing this, we've got our bracket back secured very tight. We just went through the outer metal ring. We didn't actually go into where any of the speaker itself, the part that plays, is. So now we're really good and secure. We've got our terminals up, making sure that they are not going to touch that bracket. And we're going to reconnect our factory speaker wire to it. Now the larger terminal, the black one, is going to be the negative, and the smaller one is going to be your positive. So make sure and squeeze those with a pair of pliers. You'll see me do that, and then get them plugged into the right place. Now that I have them both plugged in, I'm just going to go up just a little bit more with each one of these other terminals, just making sure I've got plenty of clearance, keeping them from ever touching that metal bracket. We're good to go. We'll move on to the other one. We'll do the same thing. All right, so let's talk about the difference between these 2 batteries. So Serge had a die-hard battery that would be bought at like an Advanced Auto Parts. We find most of those parts store batteries are very similar to this, in which they're very hard to get your bolts restarted because the nut is loose underneath. The battery we're putting in, the Titan 8 battery, has the same factory style terminals that are threaded and built into the battery. But the reason we're doing it's not because it's hard to bolt things to it. It's because we've got about a 20 pounds weight savings. And on top of that, we have an amazing amount of power. That this particular die-hard battery claims 385 cranking amps, and we normally check them and we get about 330 out of them when they're brand new, where the Titan 8 battery is actually 1,500 cranking amps. So crazy, 5 times the power out of this battery, and it weighs so much less. On top of that, we have a lot better reserve power, and 1,500 cranking amps at 13.7 volts instead of a little over 12. So that high compression motor is going to spin over much, much faster. It's going to start awesome, and he's going to have plenty of playtime to show off that new audio system when we get done. All right, I want you to check out the difference between these 2 speakers. So this is the factory 5 1/4 inch speaker. As you notice, it's pretty small compared to our whole. Our SV165 is quite a bit larger. We have a lot more surface area for that speaker to play lower notes. So we're going to get better bass response from the speaker. It's just far more capable. Also has a neodymium magnet, so it's going to fit without any spacers. So we don't have to worry about this coming out, making our seat too narrow. We're going to do slight modification. I've got to trim just about 1/8 of an inch of plastic out of the inside edge here for these to drop in. One other very important thing, if you had a 2014 or newer bike, this is a 2012, from the factory they would have already drilled a hole and ported from this speaker pod into the tour pack. This speaker in a tiny, tiny enclosure is not going to create any bass. But by drilling that porthole, that breathing hole, to allow it to share that airspace, we're going to get a much better overall sound. It's going to sound more full, it's going to sound bigger, it's going to be a lot more enjoyable to listen to. So we're going to make those modifications, and we're going to bring this bike just a couple of years newer into the future, like those 14 and newers, and give it a lot better sound. All right, so I've marked, just drew myself a line, roughly 1/8 inch out all the way around. It doesn't take much modification at all to get this speaker to drop in. I removed each one of the little rubber grommets. That's a little threaded insert that held the speaker. We're not going to use that. Even if it was 14 or newer, we wouldn't use those. So once we get this done, we'll caulk our speaker just slightly around, and we'll drill straight into the plastic with the screws that came with the speaker. It's going to hold up much better. It's not going to come out going down the road. So we'll get this cut out. Won't take just a second. All right, so that much is how much had to come out. Very, very small amount had to be trimmed to allow our speaker to drop directly in. Now we're going to go ahead and drill our porthole between our tour pack, and then I'll vacuum out all the debris. We've got all of our speakers in, our amps in, the radio's in. It's all playing now. Last step is to check the phase of the speakers. Harley is pretty notorious to be inconsistent in how they wire their bikes. So even if we build you a plug-and-play harness, if they swap the wiring at the tour pack connector or at a speaker pod, it's going to create an out-of-phase issue. It's not going to sound as good. It's not going to be as full. You're not going to have as much bass. So we always do that test. It's a cheap little $17 tool, but it allows you to find out if a speaker's out of phase and get what you paid out of your system. Because if they're not in phase with each other, it's not going to sound good. It's going to be very high-pitched with zero bass. All right, we're here at the best part, the part I know you've been waiting on, the part that we've been waiting on for a few hours. So we've done some testing. We know it sounds great, but I want to share it with you. You know, we always have to use copyright-free music. If I don't do that, you won't be able to hear it on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching this video. But Serge has spent a couple hours with us. He's watched what we've done. We've corrected a few issues we found here and there with the bike, but the install is complete. Everything is perfect. I think it sounds wonderful, and I'm ready to share it with you. So we picked a song that's really a rock feel. Serge listens to a lot of 80s rock, maybe some heavier metal. So we're going to see what this sounds like and see what you think here at home. So it's very loud.
Oh, yeah.
I can feel it in the floor through my shoe. Can you feel it?
Yeah.
And you can feel it, you know, up here too. So it's pretty amazing how loud it is. We were talking earlier, we used to do a lot of systems with smaller amplifiers. You could hear those at highway speeds, but you didn't get the presence, you didn't get the feel. This goes so loud, not only is it going to block the engine, it's going to block the wind, it's going to block everything. You're going to be able to get it as loud as you want, but at the same time, you can make it to the point that you can feel it. Which is just, it's an emotional experience compared to just listening to music. So you think it might be worth the trip down here?
Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
All right, I just want to make sure it meets your expectations. I know we watch and listen to these things on YouTube, and you got your little phone, and you got the little speaker, or maybe you're watching us on your TV in your home. If you don't have like an awesome sound bar with a sub, a lot of times it doesn't reproduce a lot of the sound. So it doesn't sound nearly as good through those ways as it does in person.
And the clarity of those.
Oh yeah, you can't explain. There's no way I can explain to you what kind of clarity it has because it's so loud, but you really don't realize how loud it is till you try to talk and you realize I can't hear myself talk.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. So if you can imagine, it's so loud that you're talking to yourself and you can't hear yourself speak. That's how loud this bike is. Well, thank you so much for watching. Serge, thank you so much for making the trip here.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I would love to have you come visit us. If you want to try to get your bike done like this, give us a call at 1-844-30-AUDIO. Our sales team would love to speak to you about your bike, put together the perfect package, and set up an appointment date for you to come in. Now, maybe you live a long ways away. I doubt you live further away than Serge does, but maybe you don't want to travel quite that far. We have awesome DIY install kits that you can put in yourself. You can watch our step-by-step install videos at volunteeraudio.com. You know, this video was a highlight video. This was not a step-by-step install. I just wanted to show you what we were doing. But go to volunteeraudio.com. At the top of the page, it says step-by-step install videos. Select that link, select your bike, and you'll be able to see what it would take to do this job in awesome detail. I think we can make it where you can do it if you're mechanically inclined at all on your own. Now, if you want to come see us, we'd love to have that as well. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to have the experience of getting together and listening to your bike, your music, and making sure it's perfect for you. Like this video, doing that moves us up in search results. It helps us a lot. And we just appreciate you doing it. It doesn't cost anything, but it allows other people to find us. Subscribe to Volunteer Audio. Follow us on Facebook. By doing so, you're going to find out the latest in Harley audio as it comes out. You'll get to see some of these videos where we show you highlights of installs, but I'm gonna show you new products when it comes out, how to use it, how to install it, everything you need to know so you can make the right decision in your purchase. Things like this bike where we put the big Titan 8 battery in it, so now it's gonna crank over and start better. Little tips on how to get the best sound, like porting those TourPack pods. We're gonna show you these things so you get the most out of what you spent on the audio in your bike. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, God bless.